Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of Kill James Bond. It's November and it's Abby, and we are sadly Devonless this episode.
Girls' night!
It's girls' night again. It's another sleepover episode. We're going to paint each other's nails. We've picked a girl movie in capital letters. I'm really excited to talk about it. And while Devon is off, like, riding a tractor around or implementing the Devon report or any number of possible things that they could be doing, you and I are going to talk about the Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want.
Yes. This was my pick for the bonus feed. I remember watching this film as a child, and it did instill in me a love of Frank Sinatra. And as far as I know, hopefully...
terrible crime.
Hopefully nothing else. Hopefully none of the other values of this movie rubbed off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of a kind of, not for the first time, right? I'm a bit of a stranger in a strange land with something traditionally, like, feminine coded, in that, like, I don't know rom-coms very well. I have a bit of a kind of a weakness for a romantic comedy, but I'm not that sort of well-read in them.
It's a straight rom-com too.
Yeah, this has always been one of my stumbling blocks with them, is that they're very, like, cishet. And also just in general, like, my idea of romance is like asking a girl, like, how hard she thinks she can, like, punch me in the stomach. But, like,
yeah, it took me some time to realize that Mel Gibson is meant to be sexy in this movie.
He's pretty old in this.
He's in really good shape. And I didn't notice until he got his shirt off, and then he had his shirt off for like quite some time. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, you're going to be attractive. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, please go on. Yeah, really. You're beautiful. Yeah. Love the hair you have everywhere. Actually, what's Helen Hunt doing? Can we go back to her?
These kind of romantic comedies, right? They used to be unfairly called, like, chick movies, right? Like movies for girls. And I think a big part of Kill James Bond as a podcast has been us exploring what it means to like what you might reductively call boy movies, or as they used to be called, movies. And I think as well there's an aspect of that with this, because this was directed by a woman, Nancy Meyers, which first of all I was surprised by, but second of all, I had kind of the thing where you look up like the list of like best-selling female authors, and, you know, absent that one, right, a lot of them are like Barbara Cartland, Jackie Collins, Danielle Steele, this whole like world of like romance novels that are mostly like by and for women and that are completely like unheralded in sort of like mainstream culture. So if I tell you that this was not only directed by a woman, but it was, at the time it came out, the most successful film ever directed by a woman.
Wow.
It's still like the 10th highest grossing. It was like surpassed by Shrek the next year, and then after that like Twilight and The Matrix and stuff.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess like it feels a little bit the way that the first 50 Shades movie did, in that like, okay, yes, the source material is the source material, but with the right female director and like a cast who are pretty game for it, it actually ends up being better than you think it should. And we may as well like tell you the premise going in. Mel Gibson is a misogynist who gains the power to read women's minds.
Yes.
That's the setup, listeners. If you were like, I don't know, am I going to listen to this one? It's a chick movie, it's a rom-com. That's the setup. Mel Gibson is Professor X, but only for chicks. He's Professor XX.
That's really good. Yeah, and again, Mel Gibson is kind of an odd choice for this casting, right? He's like...
He's meant to be attractive, is he?
Apparently. I don't... You're asking the wrong person, I think. But I think he's also like a little old for the casting as well. But yeah,
Yeah, just a little.
He's meant to be kind of a man's man, right? And we open the movie with a female narrator explaining what a man's man is. And a man's man, apparently, is the kind of man who just doesn't get what women are about.
Yeah.
And we illustrate this with a montage of like some dudes, including some like good-natured, old-timey, like New York City sexual harassment, which sort of sets the tone, right? Like, men are pigs, and this is just how it is. I think the sort of like overriding feminism, such as it is, of this movie is men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? They want very different things that are sort of like barely congruent with each other.
And so this narration is being provided by Mel Gibson. His character's name is Nick. His ex-wife, Gigi, who's like telling her bridesmaids all about her first husband, Nick, right? It says, and we see that they're a little bit distant now. They're divorced. We also see that they have a daughter together, Alexandra, who has like a little bit of a distant relationship with him. She says, well, he's kind of like my uncle dad, right? And he also works in advertising. He does a lot of adverts with like ladies in bikinis and stuff.
Yeah, he's Don Draper. There's a sort of like barely noticed Sarah Paulson being absolutely wasted as his secretary here, by the way.
Yeah. And my notes here also say New York City, baby. And then I crossed it out and wrote Chicago, baby, because it's not New York, it's Chicago.
I also did this. Yeah.
It's because it's the yellow cabs. They have the yellow cabs. And I was like, it's New York. And then all people from Chicago were like, no.
So Gigi, his ex-wife, explains why her ex-husband got this way, which is funny to be thinking about him this much as you're about to get married to another dude, but whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
And she explains, right, he was socialized wrong because his mum's job was a bit too much like sex work.
Yes, and this is a thing that a problem that the movie has with a certain kind of women.
Yeah.
And it's quite judgmental. We'll see this coming back. Like, his mum was a Vegas showgirl.
Yeah, which is not what a Vegas showgirl is or does, right? They're stage entertainers.
Yeah, that's a very demanding, like, performing job. Like, yeah. And he was raised around Vegas showgirls, and he didn't have a father present in his life apart from, like misogynistic promoters.
Yeah, genuinely. He's like, he had like bad male role models, and then you see him learning to like slap women on the ass with like Joey the misogynist.
Yeah. Hey, Joey the misogynist is here.
He's going to teach you how to hate women in an Italian-American inflected way.
Oh.
This is the thing, right? It's kind of like, okay, well, we figured out why this one guy is a misogynist. What about all the rest of these, like, men's men, wandering around?
Yeah. I mean, like, one thing this movie does do well is it takes all the threat out of the misogyny.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Apart from one thing which is about to happen right now, Nick's misogyny, it never becomes, like, physically threatening. And that is assumed to be like a different species of misogynist who is not appearing in this film. Like,
when I mentioned the kind of sexual harassment over the men's men thing, it's a guy like stopping two women in the street and going past them like, whoa, like, alhamdulillah, like these girls are hot. Like, it's kind of like PG sexual harassment, right? It has the kind of like,
it's not a man like murdering his pregnant wife.
No, exactly. I do find this like, he's like, he was surrounded by beautiful women all the time. It was kind of sex work adjacent, which is inappropriate. And so he got like bad role models, kind of repugnant. Like, I don't want to gloss over that because cards on the table, I enjoyed watching this movie more than I thought I would. But like, this bit, I think, reveals more than it means to about the politics of it.
Yeah, and it's about to do that again because Nick wakes up in his fabulous New York, Chicago apartment. And he has like a lipstick kiss on one cheek. He has a female housekeeper who wakes him up.
A female, like, kind of mother-like, heavily accented Hispanic housekeeper who's also, like, she's kind of on the, like, heavier side, right? Which is important because she's not a sexual object in this movie except in like a joking way.
Well, he does assault her.
Yeah, but like in a way that's comedic, which is different. I'll get to that later because there's another woman immediately following that the movie does this to as well. Yeah,
and she finds some skimpy lingerie lying around and tells him off basically for dating sluts. She's like, when are you going to date a woman who wears real underwear? And it's like, so it's kind of like his misogyny is being blamed on a certain kind of woman.
Yes.
Who is also not appearing in this film.
Certain kind of woman like his mum and his mum's co-workers, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, well, he may be a misogynist, but that's because like some women give it up too easy. And it's like, okay.
There's a very sort of like concise statement of this later on that we'll get to, I think. But yeah, this movie firmly believes that like sluts are real and a like distinguishable category of women who are a problem for the rest of women. Yeah, letting the side down. But we get this kind of comedic scene where his housekeeper wakes him up and says, I don't have time to make you a bagel this morning. And like, please don't call me babe. And then like, he's not listening at all. He's like, oh, babe, could you please make me like a bagel if you got time for it? And he's like, she's like, okay, I'll make you one, but as long as you stop calling me that word. And he's like, no problem, babe. And like, yeah, it's played for laughs. He doesn't listen to women. Exactly. Stop. That's right. I was on this episode. I've just been waiting this entire time to tell you that you can't hear the rest of this unless you go to patreon.com/killjamesbond and sign up today for at least £5 a month. Please.